Greetings, students. For today's activity, we're going to be drawing the water cycle. And there's not just one way to draw the water cycle, but this is the way that I like to draw it. You're welcome to draw it a different way, but you need to include all of the processes that I'm including. So the way that I like to draw the water cycle is I start out with a lake. And my lake just consists of a oblong, ovally shaped kind of blob with some squiggles. And I also like to make sure that I've included the sun, which powers the water cycle. You want to make sure that you've included some clouds, poofy cumulus clouds. Just do kind of a clump of them there. If you like, you could include a lightning bolt. I often like to include some mountains in the background and a river running to my lake. Another thing we're going to need is some trees. And you're welcome to use color, but it's not a requirement. Just along my river here, I'm going to draw some happy little trees. And that should be most of what we need. I'm going to use red to draw my arrows. So the sun causes the water in the lake to evaporate. That is the transition from liquid to gas, the phase change. I'm going to write along my arrow here, evaporation. And then there's going to be another arrow pointing to the cloud. And when clouds form, that's a process called condensation. You have the gas, the water vapor goes back to liquid form, and it forms a liquid on these tiny little specks of dust in the atmosphere, and that's what forms a cloud. When the cloud gets full of water, the humidity reaches a point and the temperature changes by getting cooler high up in the atmosphere. You have a process called precipitation. Where the water stays in the lake, that's called storage. And storage could be in an aquifer, storage could be in a glacier, storage could be in the ocean. In this case, it just happens to be in a lake. That water is not really in motion. It's just staying put for now. Another thing that's important to include that might be a new topic for some of you this year is when trees put water back in the atmosphere. That's a process called transpiration. Another thing we want to include is a runoff. When water is moving along the surface, it's always moving downhill towards the storage. There's something else called runoff. And we also want to include arrows pointing downward. This is showing underground in a process called infiltration, or sometimes it's called percolation. And that happens when you have a permeable surface like soil that lets the water seep in and go underground, forming groundwater. Now, that groundwater can still move downhill towards the storage in kind of like a subsurface type of flow, but you don't need to include that. You just need to show me that infiltration is happening. And this is going to be pretty much complete here. Let me double check my work. Make sure I didn't leave anything out. Yeah, that'll do it. So this is going to go in your notebook. And you want to be able to recall all of this stuff from memory.